My name is Amani Sawari, and I am the National Coordinator of the Right2Vote campaign. The Right2Vote campaign was born out of the National Prison Strike's demand number 10, which states, recognition of voting rights for all confined citizens serving prison sentences, pretrial detainees, and so-called ex-felons. Their voices must be counted. Representation is demanded. All voices count. The Right2Vote campaign operates out of the understanding that in order for a democracy to work most effectively, all persons within that democracy must have a voice in the political process and policies that govern their lives. No longer can we live in a country that disenfranchises millions of its citizens routinely, yet continues to charge, persecute, tax, and confine them without their voices being heard. To make sure that we have an aligned understanding of our goals and the reason why we push the right to vote for incarcerated citizens, the first is that the right to vote is a privilege. We operate out of the understanding that the right to vote is not a privilege. It is a necessity for a democracy to run smoothly, that everyone in that democracy has the right to vote. We must understand that incarcerated citizens want to be engaged politically in our society, and if we want them to feel like they belong in our society and that we value them, then we need to include them. Myth number 2, the Right2Vote campaign advocates for crime bills. The bills under the Right2Vote campaign are suffrage bills. If we look at the definition of suffrage, it simply is the right to vote in political processes. We are advocating that suffrage include prisoners, ex-felons, and all of those that are affected by incarceration. In order to help align our understanding, let me provide you with a bit of history. It wasn't until February 3rd, 1870, that the 15th Amendment to our Constitution was ratified. The 15th Amendment officially granted voting rights to African American men, re-enfranchising about 2.5 million people into our voting process. Now, looking at the 15th Amendment back then, it looked great on paper, but it didn't work out as well in practice. It wasn't until 1915, 45 years after the passage of the 15th Amendment, that the Supreme Court finally struck down the grandfather clause. Grandfather clauses were ratified in many states. Knowing that our country has a long history of disenfranchising certain groups and lifting some barriers while replacing them with others, is it so hard to believe that that is the case happening for us today? It's important that we identify the problems with our democracy today and lift those up who are currently suffering in the new forms of slavery that exist in our society. Which is why I'm excited to be a part of the Right2Vote campaign.